Hi, Julie here from Copy What I Use, and in today's video I just want to cover whether the Dr. Chan's GCSE Total Recall System manual will benefit you when it comes to homeschooling your children. Because with so many parents faced now with actually having to homeschool their children as well as all the other things they have to do, it can be a real balancing act. So I want to go through this book with you so you can actually make an informed decision as to whether you think it'll help you in trying to get your children on board when it comes to homeschooling. So to begin with, I just want to cover what's in the book. There's the index. I'll put it back a bit there for you to see what's covered. And then I'll go through it briefly with you, what to expect. So within this little mini review, I'll tell you what to expect, what I think is good about the book, and also what I think could be better about the book. Because I just am a big believer, if you're going to give a review, you should do it warts and all, because nothing is perfect in life, and this is no exception. This isn't perfect. But based on my information, it'll hopefully then give you an idea whether you think this is going to benefit you or not. Okay, so you get a brief introduction and then about the manual, and then he explains the 3 memory systems that are actually going to be covered. Because these memory tricks are not something new, they're actually quite secret really, because they were actually well used by the Chinese, but for somehow they were actually lost then for centuries before being rediscovered again. Now, to be honest, they just as well be still lost, because I'm amazed by how few parents still know about these memory tricks. And I call them tricks because they really do work like magic. Now, the first one he covers is what he calls the Dr. Chan's alphabet system. And this in a nutshell means that he actually codes up letters of the alphabet to images. So for example, and it's images beginning with that letter. So for example, A could be an apple, B could be a bat, C could be a cat, etc. And you keep doing that from A to Z. So then you'll be left with 26 images which are linked to 26 letters. And he then shows you a clever technique of how you actually then apply that to learn any list you need to learn. So it sort of works like a tape recorder, if you like, because this particular method is good for anything you want to memorize just for short term. So they can be good for lists of information you don't need to know for a lifetime. So that's Dr. Chan's alphabet system, attaching images to letters of the alphabet and then learning how to apply that technique to learn lists of information you can keep recording over and over again. The next one he deals with then is Dr. Chan's sequential story linking system, SSL, so I'll refer it in the abbreviated form SSL. And that's basically where you actually link images to learn facts or lists of information and you transfer them into a story. Now I'll just give you a brief example of how this works, just to give you an idea. This is one of my favourites, to be honest. If I go through, just trying to find a quick example that's going to be good on video to show you. Like for example, if you can see that text there, and it's probably appropriate with what is happening now at the moment. It's basically talking about the Great Depression in 1929 and in particular the Wall Street market crash. Now I won't read it out to you because it's a long chunky bit of text, okay? But the first part of the process he tells you to do is to bullet point it like is there, okay? So the way you actually apply this memory technique then is to actually go off the bullet points. The first point we want to know about is it was a stock market crash. So what Dr. Chan does is he actually describes as a wall crashing into the street and bricks and dust flying everywhere. And lots of shops have shattered windows and there is stock falling out to the street, okay? So that's a stock market crash, basically a wall crashing and lots of stock coming out to the shops, okay? So that's how we've learned the first one. It happened in 1929. Now, one of the ways that he actually gets you to understand numbers easier is what he calls number rhymes. So in a nutshell, say 29, what actually rhymes with that? Plenty of wine. 61 could be sickly bun, and thereon. You just link an image then to whatever it rhymes with a number. So in this instance, he's actually done it as flow of wine. So the way he's brought this into the equation is saying that there was actually a flow of wine coming from one of the pipes from the building into the street. Okay, so that's how he has brought in, it happened in 1929, flow of wine. So you've got a Wall Street market crash with the bricks crashing, stock coming out of the buildings, and then you've got this pipe coming out of a building with wine coming out of it. So we remember then it's 1929, because if you're actually teaching history to your children, they should sort of know it's in the 19th century, so you've only got to add the extra bit at the end. The world was plunged into Great Depression. He covers that by saying the wine flow suddenly stopped and there was lots of depressed people, okay? So that was the Great Depression. There were 13 million people unemployed. He brings that into it by saying that there was suddenly out of there was some people walking out of the buildings and they had a big sign up with the number 13 on it. And that's to show that there were 13 million people now unemployed because these buildings had crashed, okay? Now, many people were hungry and lived in primitive conditions, with one family even moving into a cave. He covers this into that after a while, one family gets up from sitting around and starts poking around in bins looking for scraps of food, so they're hungry, and they look ragged and destitute. They leave the street and town and find a cave in which they live, beg your pardon. So that's where he covers them moving into a cave. Then the final point he puts in then is in St. Louis, 1,000 people lived in shacks made from scrap metal and boxes. These were called Hoovervilles. Now for this one, he has got that the cave is next to a shanty town made of corrugated iron and boxes. People are hoovering in between the boxes, so that brings in then the keyword of Hooverville. 2 million people travelled the country looking for work. With that one then we turn the page, and he has got lots of people were leaving St. Louis. Oh, sorry, first of all, they had Louis Armstrong, who was the jazz trumpeter, and they've got him with a halo on his head, so that brings in the St. Louis. They've got, suddenly all the people are leaving the shanty town on a giant march, their numbers swelling, so that's meaning the amount of people that are all leaving there, the 2 million. And then it says that they've got their 2 fingers up in the air, so that's depicting the 2 million. And they've got a sign on, a huge barrier they crash into then that says men not wanted. And that brings in the final point, which is that there were signs saying no men were displayed on the sign. So that's how he brings it in, through a portal, into a story, and suddenly then you know that it's happened in 1929, etc, etc. So that's the SSL system, and it's brilliant because it actually transfers that information into the child's long-term memory, meaning it's going to be stored there forever, and certainly stored there till until their revision comes for their exams. So you've already got it, so that you can imagine how less stressful exam time is going to be the more you store this into their information and in their memory before that time doing homeschooling. Okay, so that's using the SSL system. Like I say, these are not new memory techniques, but I'm just amazed how few people still know about them. And then the last one he does then is Rooms of the Mind system. Again, it's quite similar, except he actually uses an imaginary or an actual room in your house, and he attaches lists of things onto items within your room. So for example, if you were trying to think of a list, for example, I could link an item visually in my mind onto this cushion. I might visualise something else on my couch. I might visualise something else on the rug, etc. Now, one example of how he does this is, I'll give you a physics example, because this was quite an easy one, quick and easy to cover in this video. So with the physics one, bear with me a second, biology. Okay. So let's have a look at some of the physics. You could do that, I did say I was going to do this off the cuff. On the kitchen door, you'd have a long flow of human hair which is standing upright due to the static electricity on it. Okay, so that's how you remember static electricity. You put a long strand of hair onto a door handle. And then when you touch the door handle, a big spark jumps into your hands and shocks you. Okay, in the front dining room you could have a Superman guarding the way, only he's looking very weak, and it's all because the kryptonite which is shining on him. Okay, so that might remind you that the room is about radioactive decay. You might even have a radio nailed to the door which was rotting away, that'll be radio decaying. Okay, and that's some of the ways then you can use this. Obviously I've just condensed that very small into that 1 or 2 facts, but you know, when you actually read the chapter, obviously it gives you more exactly how to pre-code it, etc. But it's basically where you put items onto lists of items onto items within a room, imaginary, or you can actually do it with an actual room. The Romans very much use this. They called it the Roman room system, and again it's really, really effective for storing into the long-term imaginary memory. and then they just imagine it when they're in an exam. So this is the closest really a child would ever get to feeling like they had their revision notes in the exam. That's how powerful these can be. And I say I've used them not just with my children, but I actually use them myself in my everyday life as well when I want to remember facts and things. Then you've got another appendix then, appendix 1 is how to remember dates. And that's, again, self-explanatory. He just gives you ways in which you can remember dates much easier. Again, you can use these number rhymes like I gave you earlier. 29 was plenty of wine. If you had the Act of Union, 1707, you remember that as 007, James Bond. The Peasants' Revolt was in 1381. 81 rhymes with 8 a bun. Another one was slavery was abolished in 1833. You might think of a rhyme with a dirty tree. So you could imagine a tree with grit and mud all over it. And a slave is chained to it and he breaks the chains. So again, that's one way of remembering tricky dates, because dates are difficult to remember. Appendix 2 is a fun one because it's how to memorise a pack of cards. Because, believe it or not, these top illusionists like Darren Brown, who actually use these memory systems to do their acts, they're not super bright or clever or got super imaginations. They do it by knowing these memory techniques and applying it. And he shows you the exact same system to use to learn a pack of cards. Then bonus material is the amazing effects of goal setting. He tells you how to effectively goal set with your child. Resources, and also 7 study hacks that you can use to boost your grades. Okay, so that's basically what is covered in the Dr. Chan's GCSE Total Recall system. As I said before, again, it's not perfect. Nothing in life is perfect. What would I change about it? Well, I think the first thing is, you've heard the expression, don't judge a book by a cover. This is exactly the same, applies to this. I don't think it's the most imaginative cover in the world. I would certainly have a more exciting cover. I would have a better title, because I do get frustrated when I see the words GCSE on here, because by his own admission, you can use these memory techniques from anywhere 8 to 88. And the sooner you start getting information into your child's long-term memory, like a sort of virtual filing cabinet, imagine how much knowledge you'll have then by the time they take their GCSEs, their A-levels, their degrees, and in fact through their working career. So the earlier you start these sort of techniques, the better, because let's be honest, you can adapt them yourself. So within your homeschooling, I would even suggest starting your homeschooling with a memory trick. Pick up a number and just try and learn a random number with them, because it gets their brain ready to take in homeschooling, but also more importantly, gets them on board to want to do the homeschooling to begin with. So why do I like this? For a start, the price. It's $19.95 plus postage and packaging, which I think is brilliant for a book of this calibre. It comes with a 30-day money-back guarantee, so there's no risk whatsoever into trying it, because I say if you're not happy with the memory techniques, you can just send it back and get your money back. It's for any ability, so it doesn't matter whether you're a visual learner, where you like to read off text to learn, an auditory learner, whatever it is, it teaches you methods in here that's going to appeal to all sorts of learners. Of any ability, because you might think I'm going to say that Dr. Chan was a top scholar, but he actually wasn't a top scholar. And he is proof that anybody of any ability can take these memory techniques and actually get better grades, because he was predicted to get 3 average passes in his GCSEs, which we now, well, O-levels is when he took them, but they're GCSEs now. And he actually went on to achieve 7 good O-level or GCSE results and a degree in engineering and mathematics. And how did he do it? By applying his love of magic and illusion, and if you like, pretty much homeschooling himself, because he homeschooled himself and he incorporated this into his own revision studies, and he went on then to have a terrific career from it. Another thing I would change, as well as the title, I would actually try and get a Facebook group going. I think he's missed an opportunity to get a Facebook group going whereby all the parents who have purchased this manual could actually say how they've adapted, because I've adapted a lot of these memory techniques myself and made them even different to what were in the book. And I think it would be really useful if all us parents could go onto a Facebook group and share ideas of how we think it could be better. But I say on the whole, would I recommend that you buy it? Yes. because I think it's really a cheap price at £19.95. There's no risk whatsoever with it because it comes with a money back guarantee. What you learn in here, you can't put a value of money on. I still don't know why this isn't being taught like this in schools and why so few people still know about these memory techniques. Because even my mum, who's nearly 80, loves using these memory techniques, and she can even reverse the lists as well. Because as you get better and better at it, you find you can actually do all sorts of variations with it. So I think that's basically, I've covered everything that I need to cover in here now for you to make an informed choice. I think it's a brilliant tool to have in your homeschooling because A, it'll help to get your child on board to begin with because it's fun. It's less stressful because you're taking information in without sometimes even realising you're taking it in. I say it's at a price I think that everybody can afford, and it comes without risk. And I think it takes a lot of stress off us parents and reduces the time of homeschooling so that we can sort of juggle these plates just a little bit easier. Okay, so that's it from me. Hope you found it useful. Just want to say as a point of transparency, if you click on my link and purchase the book, there is a chance I could receive a commission for it. But rest assured, you won't pay any more whatsoever. It'll be exactly the same price to you because any eligible commissions will be paid to me direct by the product owner. Alright, so I'll pop a link at the bottom for you to, if you want to go ahead and just order this. I would strongly recommend you do because we don't know at this stage how long it's going to stay at this low price because the sales page says on there that it could well double soon. So if you're keen on buying this, I would certainly give it a try. Like I said, there's a full 30-day money back guarantee and I would purchase it while it's at this incredibly low price. So that's it from me. If you need to just find out more information or if you want to order your copy, just click on the link below. And as ever, thank you ever so much for watching my video. Speak to you soon.